Welcome to All Things Possible TV. I'm Kris Barney and I'm glad to have you here with me. Today we are going to be talking about number 4, the fourth part of my 6 traits to have all things possible in your life. So the fourth trait that I want to talk to you about today is be happy. So the whole hairdo, the whole bit, be happy. There is so much to be said about being happy. Making a difference in your life by being happy, unbelievable. There are several things I want to share with you today about little things that you can do to create yourself to be a better you, a happier you, and to be able to move forward in your life, because happiness is key. We need to be positive in our life in all areas, because that is what is going to make us do better. And the only way to do that is to constantly be happy. Happiness is a choice. Many of us think, yeah, right, everything that you say is a choice. Well, right, it is. Actually, everything in your life every single day is a choice. And you are the one who has to choose what you want to have be your reality. And your reality is based on your choices every day. So I have a picture for you today that I want you to look at. So I'd like you to look at this picture. Does she look happy? Many of you have maybe seen this. It's out there. You can see it in several different places. But does she look happy? Does she look like she's had a great life? Like life is good? No. She does not look happy. Do you want to walk up and have a conversation with her? No. You probably want to avoid her, which is what happens. When we are not happy, people avoid us. I learned this lesson really big. And it was a very, very dear friend of mine that taught me this lesson. I had had a lot of negative go on in my life. A lot. My world was upside down. And I felt there was really only one place to turn to have help with that, right? So I walked around like this with her all the time. That's not the way I always was with everybody else, but I felt like I could be the true me. I could really let her know where I was at, what was going on. Guess what happened? After not very long, she couldn't take it. She was like, I can't be around this negative all the time. I lost a relationship with a very dear friend. Now, we're still really good friends, but the lesson that I have learned over time has taught me so much. I am grateful to her now because I learned this lesson at a different level, and I was able to see it from a different perspective. Being this way in life does not get us anywhere. Doesn't make us move forward, doesn't help us at all. When we're grumpy and we're in the negative and we're embracing the negative, that is not what gives us purpose. That is not what moves us ahead. So what if we were to just choose a different scenario? Maybe we were just going to choose to be a princess. Maybe we want to just choose to be happy. Yeah, sometimes it's not as easy as flipping the paper. But it's a choice. Do you want to be happy, be a princess, be a prince, whoever you are that's listening? Do you want to be happy? Do you want to move forward? Then happiness is key. Happiness is one of those traits that it takes all you have to do sometimes to muster up happiness. Because we find it's really easy to do this. It's really easy to be negative. You know, we were talking about be the crone or the queen. It's very easy, right? Crone, queen. It's a choice. What I really want you to get from this today is that it is a choice and you are valuable and you are the one that gets to choose. I want to tell you a story. When I was married for about 2 years, I was working, not getting paid. I had been a home mom, but I was now taking my child with me, and I was promised all these great grand promises that we were going to come up with once we got the funding for this company. And so I was working, and while I was working, I was taking my child with me, and I was stashing away any extra money that I had. The year before, at Christmas time, we had gone and driven our best friend around as a Santa Claus, as a helper. And we were driving around like totally barging in people's houses and just being happy. And it was so much fun that my husband said, oh, I want to do this. I so want to do this. So we, had planned that that was what we were going to do, but here we were. He was working for a company that was paid by the job. So when no cars come, he was a mechanic. When nobody comes into the shop, when nothing happens, you don't get a paycheck. So he was paid a flat rate fee of per vehicle, per job. So he didn't have a paycheck, almost no paycheck at all. By the time we charged our fuel to this shop we were at, we got to the end of the 2 weeks and almost didn't get a paycheck at all for a few weeks in a row and a few paychecks in a row. And we were kind of going, what are we going to do? It's the holidays, it's Christmas, what are we going to do? So we sold a couple things, didn't tell anyone we were having a struggle. Ate our food that we had stored and didn't tell anybody that we were having a struggle this year. And nobody was going to know that we weren't having Christmas, we weren't having the holidays and that type of a thing. We'd sold enough things that we could buy the gifts that we exchanged with others, and it was just going to be our secret. Well, I kept stashing little $20 here, $20 there, and got all the pieces together to sew my husband a Santa Claus suit. I had been a seamstress, and I had gotten a hold of our friend's costume and had made a pattern, and I had sewed this costume together without him knowing. So as I was getting this all done, my husband's mother's birthday was the 12th of December, and there was a big family party down at one of the homes, and it was only a mile or so from my own mother's home. So right before we got ready to go, I had completed sneaking and creating this way for him to have some happiness. Because imagine it, he's not providing for his family, he's not very happy, and things aren't going very well for us, so it was some pretty tough times. So right before we get ready to go, the night before, I wrap it all up in this box and I hand it to him and I said, okay, you have to open this present, but there's one catch. You have to wear it tomorrow night. And he's like, okay, whatever. I had made shirts before. We had matching Western shirts. We used to Western swing together. And so he was like, okay, yeah. I'm like, I just sewed you something. It's no big deal. I just sewed some little thing. So he's finally like, okay, because we had decided no gifts. Now he was okay with it because I had just sewed him some little thing. As he opened that present, here was a Santa suit. I'd had to stash money the whole year to buy it. I mean, the beard was over $100. The boots, the belt, the bells, the whole thing was there. He just cried. He was so happy he cried because he wanted to do that so much. And again, we had no money, no way to do this. And we were worried about how to make this work and how to handle the situation. So he said, so how are we going to make it work with tomorrow night? And I said, easy. We're going to go down. I'm going to drop you off at my parents'. You're going to get dressed. You'll show up a few minutes later. One of them will drop you off. So he's like, okay. So we get to my mom's. We dress him. We get him all ready. In fact, there's a little secret to, cotton balls in the nose makes you talk different, makes your nose shape different so nobody will recognize you. There's some tricks to being a helper. And we took the precautions. We did everything we could. I show up to the party with my little 2-year-old, and I'm very pregnant, and we're going to have a great time. And actually, this is when I have a 1-year-old, so I'm not pregnant yet. I have a 1-year-old. We show up, and we're like, oh, Bill's coming. He's going to be a little bit late. He had to work late. And because he'd been working with his brother, that was no big deal. They knew that he had a job that day, so he was, working late. A little while later, here he comes. He barges in, and he's Santa. Santa's happy. Ho, ho, ho! Santa comes in all his glory. Everyone sat on his lap. Everyone had a great time. Everyone's laughing, having fun. Great party, right? Happiness everywhere. Even his mother sat on his lap for about 5 minutes. He kept her there a long time. And after he left, his mom said, that Santa sure knew so many of the kids. Like, he was such a good helper. Like, how did he know everybody? She hadn't even recognized her own son. That was a joyful time. We're in the middle of one of our biggest struggles. No income. We have bills. We have stuff going on. And yet we chose happiness. We chose to go forward. So what we did over the next 2 weeks is we took every dime we had and we bought candy canes and gas. And my husband had been a hunter, so we had gotten a deer, and we took the hoofs of the deer and tied them onto ski poles, and we had skis, snow skis. And we went to every house we could possibly find. I got to be the elf that was out with the skis and the ski poles going along the yards, because of course the sleigh and the hoofs had to leave tracks, right? In the snow here in Utah, we had a riot. We chose to be happy in one of the hardest times that we ever had. That was a choice. Several times during that month, it would have been easy to say, oh, poor us, we don't have money, we don't have Christmas, what are we going to do? And yet we chose not to do that. We focused on what we could do, how we could change lives, how we could make others happy. Do you know how much happiness there is when you have Santa Claus peeking in the corner and nieces and nephews seeing it and going, ah, he's out there, leaving tracks on their yard that they still talk about the real Santa landing at their house? Yeah, that was my part. It was fun. We created a way to make happiness when there was no happiness to be. Right? At that time in our life, we could have focused a lot on the negatives. No money, no job, no nothing. That's not what we do. What you need to do is find a way to focus on the good things. When I teach my program, my 7-step program, one of the first things that we do is we see what's working and what's not working in our lives. And what we find is that we focus on what's not working. When we can focus on the happy things instead of the sad things, we're happier. When we focus on the funny things, how many times have you been to a party and you left and it was just like, that was the funnest time. We played games, we watched movies, we had fun. Right, it's because we're happy. Happiness is a choice. Happiness is being the queen instead of the crown, right? It's the same picture, different perspective. That's what you need to have. You can have the same picture, a different perspective, right? I have a couple of things from my 6 traits, which hopefully you've printed out by now. But you can get my 6 traits on my website, and I want you to know that the stuff that's there is proven. I've lived it. I share with you personal experience, not because I think I'm special, but because I know what has worked for me. I know that when we chose to do this Santa activity, this Sub for Santa activity, that began as a happy moment. We spent the whole 2 weeks going house to house, doing everything that we could to make other people happy. And the more we made other people happy, the happier we were. And the more value we had in our lives, even though they weren't working at what we felt like was really working right then. Our perspective had to change. Our perspective of how we made others happy. In fact, we had done so much happiness and so much fun, we actually on Christmas Eve got a bonus check and were able to go shopping that day and get each other one item. That wouldn't have happened if we would have just hung out in our negative, angry mode. Nobody would have wanted to give us a bonus. Nobody would have wanted to assist us to do better. Being happy is a choice. By truly choosing happiness, it blesses our lives in so many areas. It is unreal how many things will change if you're just happy. For instance, just in smiling, the lines in your face, the wrinkles, the age lines, everything changes. And you use more muscles to smile, and, well, actually you use more to frown. But your own skin, everything is improved by smiling, by being happy. Is that interesting? That our own face and how we hold those muscles really does matter? It does. And how we feel really does matter. We're more convincing when we're happy. That's pretty funny. Who wants to believe someone who's like, yeah, what? Right. Okay, whatever. Right? Who wants to believe that? Who wants to follow that person? When you go to a party, are you attracted to the person who is the life of the party, who's laughing, having fun, doesn't care if they look like a fool? There's times, I know there are a lot of times that I look like a total fool on these videos. I've had to be okay with that. I just get to be happy that I'm getting it out there. It's a choice. One of the things that has been proven over the years, over and over in the years, is that our emotions cause dis-ease. So disease, right? Dis-ease. So if we have dis-ease, that means not happy, right? Probably a problem. I know this from personal experience. I myself have had a lot of emotion, a lot of struggle, a lot of trials. And for a long time in my life, I chose to stay in a space that had me embrace the negative. That's the best way I can put it. For the most part, people had no clue. If you knew me well and you were my friend or I could confide in you, you would hear the negative. You would hear the stories. And I held a lot of it inside. I was queen of put on a happy face and go out there. So a lot of people didn't even realize what I was going through at the times. But for those who did, they got to see this negative. Like, who wants to live like that? I am positive that I have 2 different diseases because of my negative emotions. I have fibromyalgia, which many people have. I'm positive between my emotional garbage and my weight, that is why I have fibromyalgia. It is a painful, miserable disease. Dis-ease. Exactly. There is dis-ease in that disease. It's painful, it is annoying, but when I'm happy and I'm functioning, I have less symptoms. When I am positive about what I'm doing and where I'm going and if I embrace what I'm doing, if I embrace that I'm going forward and helping others, less pain, less discomfort. People will say when you have fibromyalgia, oh yeah, I could tell there was a storm coming. I can too. When I want to focus on it. I was at a dinner party one day and there were 2 of us there that both had fibromyalgia. And I have to be careful how I share this story because I love this person so much. But as we stood there and we talked, she was like, well, didn't you know there was a storm coming? I'm like, well, absolutely, I know there's a storm coming. I feel it in all parts of my body. And she said, okay, and so like you did your hair, you did your makeup and everything, you came to this part, this get together all made up. And I'm like, well, I would have looked like trash if I didn't. So yeah, I came to have fun. I came to be happy. I came for a break. And she continued to say a lot that night. Almost everything was negative. She had not done her makeup, done her hair. That wasn't like her. But she came totally in this raw form of, I'm miserable, I don't want to, even try to be, pretend that I'm happy because everything sucks. And for her, she just went through this whole cycle of complain and tell how horrible it was. She was totally in this mode. Okay? She had totally decided that she was going to embrace this 100%. About 2/3 of the night had gone by. And finally she said, so why don't you tell me about, like, don't you feel this? Don't you have this pain? Don't you get this? And I said, you know what? I'm choosing to see it like this. I'm good. I'm happy. I have healthy kids. My life is good. I choose this. And because I choose this, I went with my makeup done, my hair done. I went to have fun. And when I left, I had had fun. And I felt better. I felt less pain. My reason for sharing that story is not to make anyone else feel guilty or bad. My reason for sharing that story is we are at choice. Whatever we choose is what we receive. If we're going to be negative and we're going to be, embracing our pain, then that's what we're going to feel as pain. I know that when I first was diagnosed, I thought, how could I have neuropathy and fibromyalgia? Neuropathy is a completely different situation. My body has chosen not to keep vitamin B. Nobody can tell me why. Well, that's depression. That's all these other things. Once I found out that that's the case, I did everything I could to get vitamin B in my body. But I also am very well aware of when I start hitting the negative and I start hitting that down, depressed, frustrated, painful point in my life, that I have got to do something to change it. And it's a choice. And it has to be done now. I can't wait, or I go farther down that spiral. I've learned that about myself. I've learned I don't like medication. I like to do things naturally. So I like to heal myself. That takes more effort on some parts, but I'm having better results. These things are a choice for you. All of us have heard miraculous stories about someone who is on their deathbed, and you hear them say, okay, there's no way they're going to survive. They have all this going on, and they're to this point, right? We've all heard of someone like that. And then you tell the person they're going to die, and you tell the person that it's over, they have this big tumor, they have something going on. Miraculously, they're healed. It's after they decide they're not going to die. They decide they are not going to let this be the end. And it's a choice. They choose to happily live on. My father-in-law was fabulous to me. I love my father-in-law. And he got to his last days. He was older. He had been a farmer and had just broken down his body to the point that he was done. And we got a phone call one day that he was in the hospital. He was having a heart attack, or had had a heart attack, and he was not going to be here much longer, that we had to hurry. So we jumped in the car and we ran down to the hospital. We were about an hour away. So it took us about an hour and a half to gather, my husband and I, and we ran down to be there for these last moments. And we got down there, and he was then had gone from emergency to be in a room, and he was all of a sudden doing better. And we said, what happened? And they were telling us the story of how my sister-in-law was talking to him about different things that were happening, very spiritual things, so I'm not going to share those, but different things that were happening in the room and with him and his body language and stuff. And he finally clued in to the fact that she thought he might not make it. And he's like, what? You think I'm going to die? And he immediately, all of his heart rate, his blood pressure, everything improved to the point he lived another 4 or 5 years. And it was amazing because it was a choice. He had to choose happiness and I want to live. To live. All he had to do is lay there and say, I'm done. And he would have died. They had decided they weren't even admitting him into the hospital. They were leaving him in the emergency room and gave us a special room to see him in while all of his children were showing up. That is a classic example of Be happy. Be glad that you're here. Be glad that you have a reason to live, a family. Yeah, we go through hard things. There's going to definitely be things in your life that suck. And I'm sorry, but there are. You're going to have to go through the death of a loved one. You're going to have to go through hard things. People are going to mistreat you. But it's up to you to choose to be happy. It's up to you to embrace those happy moments and those times that make a difference for you. And I hope that today you have been able to pick up on more than just it's your choice to be happy, but the benefits of being happy. Happiness will heal your body. Happiness will heal your relationships. Happiness will create a way that you're not the wallflower at the party, you're the life of the party. You're the one having fun. You're the one people want to be around because you're happy. You're fun to be with. So thanks for joining me today. This is number 4. We'll go back over them. The first one is of service, sincere service. Number 2 is gratitude. And I do want to remind you genuine gratitude. So if you haven't watched it, go watch it and find out what the difference is. Number 3 was positive self-talk. We have to talk positive to ourselves because a lot of times we won't hear it anywhere else. It's got to come from within. Positive self-talk. And number 4 is be happy. Be positive, be happy in your life. Spread happiness and cheer to everyone. Be cheerful. Be cheerful in everything that you do, in how you dress, in how you are, and always be happy and cheerful with yourself. Love you enough to be happy with you. Thanks for joining me. If you haven't gone yet to get my 6 traits, go to my website to get those 6 traits. Also, be watching for when that comes out in an ebook. It's not going to happen immediately, but watch for that because it will be coming out in an ebook. And I would love for you to get the 3 hours of free training on my website. So go to www.allthingspossible.biz. Again, www.allthingspossible.biz. Thank you for joining me. Remember to be happy, the happy hairdo, the happy fun people, right? We want to be happy. You get to be happy. You get to be happy with yourself, and you get to be happy for others, and you get to enjoy your life. Thanks for joining me here today on All Things Possible TV. I'm Kris Barney, and I thank you for being here with me. Have a great week. See you next time to get number 5, our 5th trait on having all things possible in your life. Thank you.